Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Journey to Becoming Head Coach. As always, I'm your host, Jeff Freeman. Today we're going to talk about pulling guards. We're going to go through trap, down, power, G, sweep, and counter. Pulling guards is a staple. I was a guard, pulled all the time. Was a tackle, pulling at the same time. One of those things that in the early 2000s we ran a lot of. And even then, when I got into college, ran a lot of pulling guards. And then when I started my coaching stint, everything kind of changed to more inside zone, outside zone, things like that. A lot more zone technique than pulling guards, because why do people not pull guards? Start getting a lot of even front, lot harder to pull guards when this guy's pinching all the time. Now you're trying to kick out backers and you're looking for inside backers and things of that nature, versus the even fronts, which just made gaps easier to block down and kick out defensive ends. It's just an easier thing to do. It's an easier read. It's an easier, better leverage and things of that nature. Now, of course, depending on the odd front, you can have some leverage, especially when you attach your tight end. Most of the time, they're going to put a Sam backer or a stud backer out there when you start getting those odd fronts, so you can kind of get them to give you those leverage points. So, talk a little bit of blocking out of a 3-man front and a 4-man front. Gonna do a little bit of both out of all these. But in any case, I was a pulling guard. I also played center, so down blocking on a one technique or trying to get a double on a nose was everything that we always kind of did. So basic trap scheme. My old head coach had a little jingle. Never rhymed. It never really made any sense, but he always made us repeat it. He'd always say tackles have backer on trap. That's just what he always did. And, we remembered it. I can't tell you why we remembered it, but we did. It was just, what we did and how we remembered it. So when we ran trap, now granted, we ran it more we gave it to our fullback. Out of this, I'm showing you this more out of a spread, because that's what we were tending to running at more now. Everyone's seeing more spread. You might see some wing T teams still run it with the fullback and the tailback and things like that. But I'm showing you a little bit more of it a spread look. That's the offense we're running. So I'm going to show you out of that front, out of that formation, versus more of a fullback style, but that's what we ran it out of. And later on, there was a little bit of a tell. When our quarterback got under center, if our fullback got a little bit closer, you could always tell it was trapped. That was kind of one little tells later on. You could see that the fullback started cheating a little bit. But in any case, tackles have backer on trap. We're trying to trap the 3 technique. That's the goal. That's what we're moving towards, is the 3 tech. So again, tackle is going to release off to this backer here. This center is going to block back on this. This tackle or this guard is going to release to backside backer. Essentially, you have 2 guys on the backside backer. This tight end, depending on where he is, if he's inside, really doesn't matter that much. He can hot hand and release. But if he's head up, then we want him to release inside and get off to that outside backer there. Usually, though, he's going to be more of an inside shade technique. So, but yet again, hot hand and then release off to backer. Because again, we're trapping, kicking out, and going right up the gut. So that is trap at its basic core. We're trying to trap the 3 technique, and that's the goal, because this 3 technique is a bad son of a gun. Now again, sometimes as I'm looking at this, you can trap, especially if this 3 tech is really, really good. You can trap him or you can read him. So you can run some just inside veer and really read that 3 tech. And again, if he comes hard inside, pull and replace. If he comes hard upfield, let him go. So again, trap and veer, in my opinion, can kind of, if you teach it correctly, can work hand in hand, because you're just playing games with that 3 technique. Now, when you get into the odd fronts, you can run trap. It just turns into a short or a long call. And again, this is all predicated on your film work and what these tackles tend to do. So when you get that 3-4 look, that Sam backer is probably going to be here more often than not. And then you'll have your Mike, your Will, boop, 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 Rover, splitting the difference, hopefully. So same principles still occur, except for now you're going to teach a short and a long call. If these tackles tend to play, head up, then you can just make it a little bit of a short call, release inside, and he's going to go if they tend to pinch. So they tend to pinch. Normally, again, we always teach our tackles, don't let color cross your face. So we want the tackle to release inside. If that tackle pinches hard, you just take him. because we have this guard to release to the middle backer, or he can also help depending on this nose. So obviously he's nose, step down, help, release to backer. This tackle, again, if he crosses his face, stick with him. If not, release off to the inside backer there. This tackle is going to, this tight end will release to inside backer, because again, now you're pretty much going to end up trapping the outside backer most likely, depending on what this tackle does. That's, especially with a tight end attached, this would just easily be a long call. He's going to go more of a long trap. So, and instead of releasing now, it's going to be more of a C gap play than it is an A gap play for the most part. It's just a short and a long call. That's essentially what it turns into if you're going to trap the outside backer, which really looks more like power at that point because it's such a far trap. So instead, if you want to keep it with trap principles, then, and you're trying to just really get inside, again, depends on that tackle there, but you can have the H stay on the sandbacker. If he's a two-gap guy, have your tackle release inside, force him to come upfield, and again, that would just be a little bit of a long call because he's going to go a little bit farther than normal. Trap in there, down block to backside backer, releasing straight up the gut, just like normal. Now, if he's a pincher, you can say short, 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 and you can have your tackle release, and that just lets your guard know that that tackle's pinching hard, and it's gonna happen a lot quicker. And then that tackle can just release. It all depends on what that guy does. If he's a pincher, tackle can just let him go. Guard knows it's a short call. He's going to come down a little bit harder because that tackle is going to release and sit. If he's going to come straight upfield, it might be a kick out. It's going to be a real quick block. He might have to just shove him outside depending on if he's an upfield kind of tackle, because some people teach penetration and they want him to get hard and high upfield. So then he might have to adjust his trap track to at least give him a shoulder or hot hand before he releases up. Depending on, because again, if he releases hard upfield, you might have to get a quick just hot hand and then release. Because if he's going hard upfield, sometimes they take themselves out of the play by doing that. But again, if he's a pincher, he's got to know it's a little bit of a short call because he's got to understand he's going to have to adjust his path. If he's a upfield or two-gap player, then the tackle can just make a long call, and that lets him know that, okay, he's going to be either head up to outside the tackle, so I got to adjust my trap technique that way. So, again, a couple different ways you can play it. You can turn it into a long version of a power G kind of thing, where it's just the guard kicking out the outside backer if you wanted to. But again, that's not really trap. But again, it's an adjustment to an odd front if you want to run it that way. Or you just play games with this tackle and know, is he a pincher? If he's a pincher, okay, that's going to be a quick reaction on our guard. And if your guard isn't the most athletic, then you might not want to do that because, again, understanding if that tackle is a pincher, that's going to mess a lot of that up if your guard can't get there in time. So you got to understand your personnel, and you got to understand what this guy does and what he's good at. Are they pinching just because that's what a lot of 3-4 teams do, and he's an okay pincher, and he sits? If he sits heels depth, that's glorious because then he's giving him a target to hit, and we can get it right up the seam. Or is he a guy that's going to come upfield as hard as he can? That's going to tell him, okay, maybe I want to bucket step it a little bit more and just get him off his track so the tailback can fit up underneath. So, a little bit different ways you can play games with trap out of an even front and an odd front. Again, we tended to, in high school and even a little bit of college, if we didn't have a one technique, we just didn't run trap. If we were an odd front, we just got rid of trap. We said, nope, screw it, we're not going to bother running trap. Nowadays, you don't really want to get rid of a play, especially if it's a play that your team is good at. You want to find an adjustment so your team can still run it, especially if your team is good at that play. Now, let's just say, you're going to run it out of a true spread look. How would you run trap out of a true spread? Well, that doesn't change a lot, especially with an even front, because now, again, depending on what these backers and safeties do, you might end up with a safety, outside over here. You'd have your end, your tackle, nose, and so it really kind of helps. The only thing that will have to be adjusted is what these backers do, because depending on what happens, if it's a cover 2 look, the will might widen, and so might the Sam. So it might almost turn into a 5-man box, basically. Because if that will widens, and because they're going to try and stay in cover 2, then what that means is this end, usually they'll exchange responsibilities. So that means the end is going to be responsible for this gap now. So he's going to pinch, and so then that way that will has outside contain. So all that means really, again, we have a nice easy down block. We're releasing to the backer, releasing to backer, stepping hard down inside most likely because he should not get there. Now at the same time, we can have him step up and release all the way to backside backer. But at the same time, when he's out here, I find more often than not, if you get a double on that mic, and then you have this nice short trap right here, the will's not going to get there in time. That's just my preference. That's what I've seen. The will doesn't get there, especially when he's widened. Now, if they adjust it, and the will's in the box, because that free safety is the one that's widening a little bit more, which again now kind of opens up some of that middle passing game. But in any case, if that's the play and he can see the will, then obviously yeah, replace down to the will, trap, and go. Now to a 3-4. Again, it turns into a short and long call because now you're going to have a Sam, Mike, Will. It's still a 5-man box, so that still helps with that front. Now, you can have a couple different things. You can turn this more into a guard wrap, or you can still keep it trapped. Again, same thing we talked about. The only difference is you don't have a tight end anymore. So he can release upfield, depending on what he does. If he's a pincher and sitter, he can release up to the mic, he can release the backside backer, / help with the nose, kick out, and go sit inside, make sure that tackle doesn't pinch. So you can still run it, it's just a matter of what that tackle is. Is that tackle a heels depth and sitter? If so, you can trap him. Or is he an upfield guy, or is he a 2-gapper? You know, or is he an outside player in this? If he's an outside player, maybe the mic's going to blitz. You know, it all depends on what he's going to do. But again, a lot of the times we would get rid of trap because for whatever reason not having those angles kind of scared us. But as I looked at it more and more, if you know what this guy is, you can still run trap. Because I like it if he's going to sit there, we can kick him out and sneak it up. Now, if he's a bad son of a gun and he can stop our trap because our guard's not strong enough to kick him out, then we might have to make an adjustment. But at the same time, if he's a heel depth sitter and we can kick him out and just sneak a little crease, we'll run trap out of that if he's a heel depth guy. Depending on my guard's athleticism and this tackle's athleticism, if he's a get upfield kind of player, maybe we don't run trap. So again, that just kind of depends on what that player is. If he's a get upfield kind of guy and our guard's not athletic enough to step and then maybe make an adjustment to just kick him out, then we might get rid of trap when it comes to that. Or like I said, we turn it a little bit into a guard wrap instead. So if he's a hard get upfield, we down block him hard and we just kind of turn it into a guard wrap. Again, widens it a little bit, not exactly trap anymore because again, trap you're trying to hit in this A gap. But again, if you want to run something that looks like trap and you just want to make an adjustment based on that tackle, you can. So that's trap out of a spread, trap versus a 4-3, trap versus a 3-4. And again, you can say, well, Jeff, that's not trap. That's fine. You can say that's not trap. But at the same time, you're using those principles and you're just adjusting for that guard / tackle. So next one's down. And this is how I knew down versus however else I see down. So again, I'll show it to you out of a 4-3 front. So down was really simple. It was down, down, kick. That's all it was. Down, down, kick. So now if he was inside shade, he released off the backer. So, and this would truly be a short call. So he would release off the backer. He would down block, kick, double team to backside backer, scoop backside. And again, we were just trying to hit it right up this gap. The Sam backer, we never blocked. We just didn't block him. Now you could make the adjustment if you wanted to change that and have him block the outside backer, but again, you're trying to hit in that B and C gap, and if he takes his right step, it'll kind of take him out of the play. And again, most run plays, the goal is to get 4 to 5 yards. I mean, 3 yards really if you're really sitting nice and pretty. 3 yards, I always say 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Well, if I get 3 yards on first and second down, I'm looking at 3rd and 4. So I'm okay with 3rd and 4. Because then even then, I could still run another run play and make it 4th and 1. And if I'm averaging 3 yards a carry, I can just keep going on 4th down and go and go and go. So that's fine. So again, if you're averaging 3 yards, you're sitting pretty in that regard. So again, down kick, very simple, very easy stuff. So that was just the rule: down kick, down kick. And that was how we ran it. We called it go. It was very simple. Now let's just say you want to widen out, run some more spread look out of it. So again, wrong color. So again, if you want to make it really simple, now it just kind of turns into a cross block, and now you can run some RPOs out of this to keep that sandbacker honest, because that sandbacker keeps cheating. You can run a quick bubble, you can run a little arrow and slant combination out of it, but again, it just turns into a simple cross block, down, kick, and it's a shorter version of go. You're more going into that B/C gap, or B gap more than C gap. So that's all it does on that front. And again, your Mike backer is going to be a little bit more free on this, because obviously you don't have anybody to block him when you run it like this, when you're going full spread. So it's your tailback versus the Mike backer. So you just got to keep that in mind as well. You don't have anybody to go down on that Mike backer. But at the same time, if you have enough games between the backside and the front side, now with this, again, depending on what that free safety does, the Mike might be the only one sitting in here. So it might be a double team up to Mike, because if that Willie is sitting out here to account for that slot receiver, then that's a lot better box numbers than that. If they got 6 in the box, I only got 6 running. So that might be okay. Well, now maybe we're running a screen to the backside over here, or maybe this RPO game on this front looks really nice. We can have an access throw here and an RPO here. Because especially, again, if that sandbacker starts cheating, as he comes up, say you're running just a regular bubble, you pull it, throw it, and go. So that's kind of the nice thing, is that you can start fitting RPOs when you're into this spread look a little bit more when you run some of these games. Now, out of an odd front, again, you can play games with that tackle, because again, you're going to have that look. Now this makes it a little bit nicer, and I'll tell you why. Because now you can have a double team up to the Mike, and now you can kick out the outside backer. He's just like a tight end. Oh wait, here. Sorry, change the colors here. So this is kind of the nice thing, is now you got a true down kick philosophy out of here, because now you have more leverage than you did before. So you can run a down kick scheme, down to the Mike, kick, scoop backside to the will, don't get beat inside, and we're off to the races. So that's kind of the nice thing out of the odd front, is the guard out or the down scheme still works very well leverage wise. Now of course, if the sandbacker's a pincher, or if he's blitzing, obviously don't get beat inside. That's going to elongate and change up the blocking scheme. Again, you can draw everything up to perfection, but once the snap happens and the backers start moving around, now you're kind of at the will where your guard's got to make sure he makes the right read. And if that tight end knows, if don't let color cross your face, he pinches, he takes him with him, well, now it just turns into a little bit, again, turns into a wrap. And he's off to that Mike backer, because no one's going to get there if we got down block and down block. But usually out of a 3-4 front, that Sam backer's a squeeze guy, so he's going to sit on the edge and protect the C gap and outside contain, and the Mike is going to be responsible for A to C gap. He's a scraper, he's a filler and a scraper, and this guy's boot counter reverse or backside scrape. Here's your boot counter reverse guy, so he's going to sit still. But again, if he starts cheating, you can always have a little access throw to this side depending on what he's doing. He cheats really hard, throw it and go. Same thing on this side. If that corner's, 10 yards deep, throw it and get, 4 yards. There's no harm in doing that. I like giving my quarterback access throws and ideas on that front. Just be, hey, so we tend to not stock block a lot. I mean, literally, I think we stock block on fly sweep, and that's about it. That's about as far as we go when it comes to stock blocking. Everything else, we're running some kind of RPO game or access throws just to give our quarterback, and again, make the defense cover the whole field. They don't get to just block the run. They don't get to just cover the pass. They got to do both every single play. So it's kind of the nice thing there. Now, no tight end. And now that Sam Backer is going to have to widen and split the difference. Because he's got to account for the E or our slot. Now again, now that's where the games come. He starts cheating. Well, now. So now it literally just turns into a little bit of a wrap play if you want to keep it. Personally, I'm not going to run it against this because there's really nobody to kick out unless I just want to run a guard wrap play, but there's just too much pressure. So against a 3-4, I'm not going to run down without a tight end. That's just me being brutally honest. I said I'd show you, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to run it. So that's just me being very honest with you on that because there's no one to kick out, and there's just too much variability with these three against these three for any kind of blitz and run through out of that front. Putting that tight end there really helps and elongates, gives us a longer edge, and gives us somebody to kick out. There's not good leverage here. If he goes out, kind of screws everything up. If he pinches really hard and screws up our guard pull, we can't really do any kind of wrap or anything like that. So I'm not going to run down out of this front, just to be brutally honest. Power and power G. Now, power, obviously, you do need a little bit of it. You do need a fullback, and we will bring a fullback in from time to time. Depending on now out of this front, is going to be more of our just normal power for us. This is how we teach power. So if we're not going to use fullback, then we're going to run power read basically. So obviously it's down, 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 down. It's down, down kick principles. So we are down blocking, or if we can get a double team, that's great. Double team here, back block, to backside backer, kick out the end, pull up the gut to the Sam or the Mike, depending on who's there. And then we're gonna read him. If he follows, we'll pull. If he doesn't follow, then we'll hand off and we're riding. So that's how we tend to run power. We'll run the power read. Now, of course, if we wanted to do, regular, or if we want to block that backside, we can bring him in and have him kick out. So then that way we don't have to worry about the read, and we'll bring him on either side and either have him back block or go straight up and kick out the end so we don't have to worry about the read. And we'll do the same thing on the front side. Say we bring him in here and we don't want to pull, our tackle. We just want to kick out. Then we'll do the same thing out of this formation. So a couple different ways we can run it. And this is where we would just do power G, where we're just going to pull the guard and not pull the tackle. So again, same principles. Down block. If we can get a double team, that's great. Down block, kick out the end, pull up the hole, first threat, scoop block backside, down block. So that's what we call power G because we're only pulling the guard. So again, you can either pull both and read the end. You can pull both, kick out the backside end, so that way you don't have to worry about him pulling and following. Or you can bring a guy in, kick out the end with a fullback, and run power G and just pull the guard. Again, same play, same rules for the line, which makes it really nice. Same rules for the line, and it just makes, it looks like different plays. That's kind of the goal. You want things to look like different plays. Now, out of an even front. Again, depending on what he does, if he stays in the box, it makes things a little bit more difficult than if he's outside the box. Because now, again, we still have a double team here. Still have a back block. Still kicking out the end. Still pulling up and releasing, depending on what we're doing. Now, we're going to tend to have them go backside, but it all depends on where that will is. If that will's outside the box, release to the Mike backer, and then our tackle's pulled up on the safety. If he's going to stay in the box, we'll tell him to go backside, and then our tackle will kick out the Mike. And again, we'll read him. But same thing can apply. You can bring the E in, kick out the end, or if you want to read them, you can read them. And then again, out of that even front, you can still bring your E in if you want and kick out the end instead. Now again, of course, you do that, now you're bringing somebody else in the box. So now you really are double teaming to backside, kicking out, kick out the end, pull up to the Mike, release inside, scoop backside, and you're off and running. So another different way you can run it against an even front, where you're pulling up that end. Now odd front. So against an odd front, again, just things change. It all depends on where guys are going to be. And against an odd front here, again, you're probably not going to read that tackle. And if he's a pincher, you're not really going to run that anyway. So if he's a pincher, that tackle's not going to be able to get there. So it's just going to turn into another version of power G. And we're just going to end up kicking out the Sam backer. And he's going to release inside. They're going to double here. We're going to double here. So now we got a backside, we got a front side, kicking out there, step hard down inside. So it turns into a power G without having to call power G, just based on alignment. So that's kind of a nice part there. Now you can bring this E over. You can read him. Again, he turns into the read guy, because if, let's just say he's cheating, well again, now you have the access throw early. If he's down hard in the box, throw it and go. You can run an RPO, you can just run a quick hitch, you can run an out and a slant if you want. Again, all depends on what you want to do on the backside. Backside, I always like to make access throws. Front side, RPOs. So that's odd front. It just turns into power G. You're going to kick out that outside backer for the most part and still get into that C and D gap depending on where the sandbacker ends up. Now without the H, let's just say he's out here. Let's just say he's out here. So now, yet again, the nice thing about this, depending on where everybody's at, you got RPOs on the front and the backside. And again, it just turns into a little bit more of a power G or a little bit more of a wrap. So if he's outside, you're going to run it. Okay? If he's a pincher, perfect. Take him and go. We'll double team the backside backer. He'll pull and he'll wrap at first light and go. Same thing, don't get beat inside. You have access throw on the backside with the rover. You can have an RPO with the sandbacker on the front side. So, and if he's an out kind of player, like let's just say he's a two-gapper, and again, this is all predicated on film. If he's a two-gapper or an outside release, you can have him release to the mic and go ahead and kick out the tackle. But again, that's all predicated on film and watching on film what he does. If he's a pincher, again, it just turns into more of a guard wrap versus anything else. And then if he's not a pincher, if he's a two-gap guy or an outside player for whatever reason, then, or if they're trying to play some games where they want to be outside and just have the mic focus on the A and the B, and you got outside help with the Sam, then again, now you can wrap him or kick him out if you want and pull up the gut. It's a little bit of a different way. Now, out of this, what we've also done This is where you can get some fly sweep game out of this a little bit and play some games there. Because you can have some fun a little bit with these guys. And you can bring your H and pull him up on the outside as well and still get that second guy. Because if you want to run, and you can have him kick out the S if you want, but you can bring him across and he can release. And depending on, again, if he's a pincher, that's fine. You can have him run the sweep, and you got the pulling guard, whether it's wrap or kick out. You can run the fly sweep out of that if you want, and you can have him turn into the lead up onto the safety, anything you want, or you can have him kick out. If that tackle is really coming hard upfield, you can have him kick out. It all kind of depends, again, what that tackle does. If he's hard up outside, you can have the H kick him out and the guard pull up, or you can have the guard pull up out, and your H can be a lead guy if you want him to, depending on what that Sam backer does. He can look for Sam backer to safety. Kind of gives you another option, and it looks like fly sweep. It can look like fly sweep. I think I'm going to make counter, it's a whole other video. Sweep. Vertical buck, double guard, whatever you want to call it. But basically you're pulling both guards. Basically you're pulling both guards. So you're going to pull both guards. So he's going to down block, he's going to down block, he's going to kick out the end, he's going to down block, and he's going to essentially pull up the hole depending on where we're at. And then you got the lead block here, down block inside, or release to backside backer. Now again, depending on where he is, if he's outside the box, that end's going to pinch. If he's inside the box, he can take a hard step down inside and then go. Or if you want to read this, again, if you want to read it, you can read it if you want. And if he comes down hard and pulls and follows a pulling guard, you can have him pull off. If there's nobody out here and that safety's off, you got an access throw right now. Again, you got a lot of games to play depending on what that will is doing and depending on how far back that free safety is. So if you got your quarterback starting out, how far back's the free safety, where's the will? Free safety's 12 yards off, will's inside the box, throw and go. Okay, will's outside the box. Okay, not so much. Okay, what's the end going to do? End's going to pull and really follow that pulling tackle or pulling guard. Fine, I'm going to go and attack the line of scrimmage. Again, you can turn it into read if you want, or you can just let it go and let that tackle get hard inside. That if that end releases, go off to next level, because the goal is obviously that end should not be making that play. So again, very simple, very easy stuff. Now again, you can also turn it into more of a sweep. And how that's kind of done in the past, instead of having the tight end go down, you have him block the end basically, and the end comes down inside. Now the guard's pulling out, other guard's pulling out, and now you have more of an actual sweep play where first inside threat, first outside threat. And how that used to work is if you see the end's butt, get outside. If you see our guy's butt, pull it up. If you see the tight end's butt, cut. If you see the end's butt, get around. So kind of depends on if you're trying to attack the outside or if you don't mind it turning into a little bit of a power game a little bit if you want him to release down and have a guy kick out the end and replace it that way. Because it could still be sweep to some degree depending on what that end does. Because let's just say he releases down to the Mike backer, and let's just say that end pinches and he's able to wrap him or hook him, well then it still turns into a sweep play. Or if the end releases hard outside, then the guard can just kick him out and now pull up. So again, you can block it either way. We've blocked it both ways. You can have the H take the E or take the N, or you can have him release down to the backer. Doesn't really matter. The backer gets blocked either way. So it doesn't really matter how you want to do it. He gets blocked either way. Now let's just say you don't have anybody. Again, now the trick is now it turns more, it's still sweep, but to me, obviously you're attacking more the C gap than the D gap, because now that end is free. So down block, kick, down block, release off to first threat, which should be the Mike backer, and you're still running that sweep, depending on, again, what that end does. If he kicks the end out, you pull it up. If he's able to hook the end, then you get to the outside. So it kind of becomes a read play for the guard. Again, you still have backside threat, depending on what you want to do there. Again, attaching access throws, making the defense cover the whole field is the best thing you can do to help your quarterback and to help your offense. Make them cover the entire field. All right. Now for the wonderful 3-4. So now you can pull both guards if you want. Again, your center has to be really good and not get pushed back and get shoved into this. And your tackle just basically has to big on big, take him, pull up and around, take him, pull up and around. Again, you can do that, and the nice thing about this too, if you really want, this can almost turn into a little bit of a counter. You can fly sweep this and attack the outside and say hard step here, and you can bring a counter back if you wanted to, especially if you get that rover really reaching far, if you really wanted to. So again, you can run it out of fly sweep, or you can hand it to the tailback. But again, pulling both guards, your tackles and your center just have to be really, really stout players. And your center can't get pushed back, and your tackle can't get pushed back, especially play side. Tackle, obviously, he can open a little bit and release off to the will. And then you got help getting to the Mike backer. Because again, the idea is on here, when you're handing this ball off, if that Sam starts cheating hard, you have an RPO built in. Whether it's, again, a little bubble here, or just say it's an out with a slant, whatever you want that to be. You know, obviously you want to make it quick. You know, RPOs, depending, I know some people want to go vertical, and we could put that in there here and there, especially on zone when it's a little bit easier. But pulling guards, I like to make the throws quick and easy, just because there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of moving parts. Zone, it's almost like a wall. It makes it a lot easier for our quarterback to sit there, and we can run a vertical passing game with an RPO out of that. So, again, reading that Sam backer, and if he sits out there, obviously let it go. You got off to Mike, and you got off to the strong safety, free safety, middle safety, whoever's out there. So, that's out of the odd front. I don't think I showed you the odd front with a tight end, though. Actually, no, I did not. I went straight to spread. So, let's just say you got a tight end now. Again, now you have a little bit more of some blocking. Again, you got the rover to read if you really want. So now you got some more leverage. Block down, depending on what you want to do. If you want him to block the Sam, you can block the Sam. All depends on what you want to do. Again, center's got to be a stout player in this. And then he's off, and he's either pulling outside or inside looking for the Mike. Step dart out inside, try to cut off the will. So again, that's, you know, that could be a double pulling guard against an odd man front. You can run it. Now, got to be very wary of this Mike. If he's a really good reader, he might fill, he might scrape really well. Got to be aware of the Mike backer on that. But in any case, again, you can either have the double team to the Mike, or if you want the H to stay on the S like we talked about, then the guard's just going to read him. Again, depending on how good the Sam backer is and depending on how good the Mike is, you might not want your lineman getting caught up in a double team, so you might want to just send them now. So if that's the case, and that Sam backer is an outside guy, you might just have him reach him, have him pull up to the Mike backer now. Again, tackle's got to be a stout defender. And then your other guard, again, would also read, depending on what he's doing, either cut it up or bounce it out to help with the tackle. So you can run it two different ways. You can have these guys big on big. Again, I'm a big believer on double teams. So if that H can help out and get that tackle blocked. Now, again, at the same time, what makes life a little bit easier as well is if he's a pincher, tackle's going to take him, H is going to take a hard step, and then he's going to release directly off to Mike. It's if he's a two-gap player or an outside guy, we can get a double team. But then that makes it really easy to get the Sam and another either pull up out or in, depending on how the guard ends up taking him. So right there, we just went over trap, guard out, down, well, guard out and down, power and sweep. So again, if you enjoyed it, please give me a like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share the show, all that good stuff. And thank you very much for tuning in and commenting. Be great, push limits, hold the line. Have a great day.